The night an unknown boxer nearly knocked out prime Muhammad Ali and paid the price. Blood trickled down Marcus Wilkins' swollen brow as he stared at the Western Union telegram clutched in his trembling hand. Louisville, Kentucky, December 1969. His chance had finally arrived. 6 years of fighting in smoke-filled halls across America's forgotten towns had led to this moment. A sparring invitation from Muhammad Ali's camp. The greatest needed preparation for his comeback, and Marcus had been selected as one of the fresh faces to help sharpen the legend's dulled reflexes after his 3-year exile from boxing. Marcus stuffed the telegram into his worn leather jacket pocket and wiped the blood from his face. The small-time bout he'd just won at the rundown gymnasium in Philadelphia had paid enough for a bus ticket to Kentucky. Nothing more. At 27, the clock was ticking on his unremarkable career. 22 wins, 14 losses, no title shots. His name remained unknown outside the circuit of journeyman fighters who traveled the country taking whatever fights would put food on the table. "This changes everything, Dolores," he told his wife over the payphone outside the gym. "Ali's people say it could lead to something bigger if I impress them." "We need more than promises, Marcus," she replied, the weariness evident in her voice. "The rent's due next week, and Mikey needs new shoes for school." He caught his reflection in the payphone booth's scratched glass panel. The scar tissue around his eyes had hardened with each passing year, his once handsome face now a topographical map of every punch he'd ever taken. Boxing had given him nothing but broken promises and broken bones. But Ali. Working with Ali could change everything. 3 days later, Marcus stepped off the Greyhound bus in Louisville, his entire life packed into a single duffel bag. The December air bit through his thin jacket as he made his way to the address provided in the telegram. The gym wasn't what he expected. No grand entrance or flashy signs announcing it as the training ground of the former heavyweight champion of the world. Just a modest brick building with steamy windows and the rhythmic sounds of speed bags echoing from within. Inside, the air hung heavy with the familiar sense of sweat and liniment. A dozen fighters worked various stations while trainers barked instructions, and there he was, Muhammad Ali, larger than life, his legendary frame moving with fluid grace around a heavy bag in the corner. Even after 3 years away from the sport, the man possessed an aura that commanded attention. His punches snapped with precision, his footwork mesmerizing as he danced around the bag. Marcus stood transfixed until a heavy hand clasped his shoulder. "You, Wilkins?" asked a gruff voice. Marcus turned to face Angelo Dundee, Ali's renowned trainer. "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, extending his hand. "Thank you for the opportunity." Dundee's weathered face remained impassive as he sized up Marcus. "We're looking for fighters who can push him, make him work. He's been out too long. Needs to shake off the rust before Frazier gets his shot. The government took his best years, but they didn't take his heart." Marcus nodded, understanding the political minefield surrounding Ali's refusal to be drafted and subsequent ban from boxing. The Supreme Court would soon hear his case, but for now he was fighting to reclaim his throne after years of forced inactivity. "When do I start?" Marcus asked. "Get changed." "You're up in 30 minutes, Dundee replied, already walking away. In the locker room, Marcus wrapped his hands with methodical precision, a ritual performed countless times throughout his career. His heart pounded against his ribs like a fighter testing the ropes. This wasn't just another sparring session. This was his one shot at redemption, at giving his family the life they deserved. A young black fighter entered, nodding respectfully as he selected a locker. "First time sparring with the champ?" he asked. Noting Marcus's focused expression, "That obvious," the fighter laughed. "I'm Drew Collins. Been working with him for 2 weeks now. Word of advice, don't believe anything he says in that ring." Man's got a psychological game like nobody else. Thanks for the tip, Marcus replied. Any other advice? Drew's expression turned serious. Yeah, he may have been out for 3 years, but he's still Muhammad Ali. Don't you forget that. Even for a second, when Marcus emerged from the locker room, the gym had transformed. The various fighters had stopped their workouts and gathered around the ring. Ali was already inside, shirtless, his physique perhaps carrying a few extra pounds, but still impressive. He was talking animatedly to Bundini Brown, his assistant trainer and spiritual advisor, that famous smile lighting up his face. Dundee motioned for Marcus to climb through the ropes. As he did, Ali turned, his eyes narrowing slightly as he assessed the new sparring partner. Then that smile returned, broad and confident. "Look here, Bundini," Ali called out. "They bringing in white boys to help me get ready for Smokin' Joe now." A ripple of laughter spread through the onlookers. Marcus stood his ground, meeting Ali's gaze without flinching. 3 years of exile might have dulled the champion's skills, but his legendary bravado remained intact. "All right, gentlemen," Dundee announced. 4 rounds. This is about work, not war. I want to see movement, combinations, defense. Save the knockouts for the real thing." As the bell rang, Marcus realized this moment, standing across from the greatest in a Louisville gym, was already more than his modest career had ever promised. What happened next would determine whether it would be a footnote or a new beginning. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Muhammad Ali bounced on the balls of his feet, his gloves held loosely at chest level. Marcus circled cautiously, measuring the distance between them. The spectators had fallen silent, the only sounds now the squeak of boxing shoes against canvas and the steady breathing of 2 men preparing to engage in their violent dance. "You scared, white boy?" Ali taunted, his voice carrying across the ring. "You look scared, should be scared. Even Rusty, I'm still the prettiest, the greatest." Marcus didn't wait for him to finish. He lunged forward with a crisp jab that caught Ali by surprise, landing flush against his cheek. The champion blinked, momentarily stunned not by the force of the blow, but by the audacity of this unknown fighter interrupting his familiar routine. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Bundini Brown shouted something from the corner. Ali's eyes narrowed, the playfulness vanishing. He nodded slightly, a gesture of respect, before launching his own attack, a lightning-fast combination that Marcus barely managed to block. The speed was otherworldly. Even with 3 years of inactivity, Ali moved like quicksilver, his punches seeming to materialize from impossible angles. Marcus weathered the storm, his forearms absorbing most of the impact. When he created enough space to counter, Ali was already gone, pivoting away with those legendary feet. Not bad, Ali conceded during a clinch, but it takes more than one lucky punch to dance with the champ. As the first round progressed, Marcus found himself struggling to maintain his composure. Fighting Ali was like trying to catch smoke, the champion's reflexes allowing him to slip punches by mere millimeters. But Marcus noticed something. Beneath the dazzling display, Ali was indeed rusty. His timing occasionally faltered. His breathing, after just 2 minutes of action, seemed labored. Between rounds, sitting in the neutral corner, Marcus received no advice, no water, no towel. He wasn't there to win. He was there to serve as a glorified training tool. But as he watched Ali receive attentive care from Dundee and Bundini, a determination hardened within him. He hadn't come this far to be merely a footnote in someone else's comeback story. The bell rang for round 2. This time, Ali approached more cautiously, respect evident in his measured steps. Marcus pressed forward, cutting off the ring, forcing Ali to engage rather than dance. When the champion unleashed his signature combination, a left jab followed by a straight right, Marcus slipped the jab and countered with a hook to the body that produced an audible grunt from Ali. Drew Collins, watching from ringside, raised his eyebrows. The other fighters exchanged glances. This sparring session had just become something more. Ali responded with calculated aggression, backing Marcus against the ropes and unleashing a barrage of punches. Some landed, most didn't, but the message was clear. The champion wasn't accustomed to being challenged by unknowns. Marcus covered up, weathering the assault before creating enough space to fire back a right cross that found its mark on Ali's jaw. The gym fell silent. Ali stepped back, touched his jaw with his glove, then nodded again, this time with something resembling genuine respect. "Where'd they find you?" he asked during another clinch, his voice low enough that only Marcus could hear. "Philly," Marcus replied, struggling to control his breathing. "Been fighting since I was 16. Could have fooled me. Looked like you just started yesterday." The verbal jab was delivered with Ali's trademark smile, but the force behind his next combination suggested he was no longer taking this sparring session lightly. The second round ended with both men breathing heavily, a thin line of sweat trickling down Ali's temple. In his corner, Marcus finally received attention. A cutman he didn't recognize pressed a cold enswell against a swelling beneath his left eye, while Dundee himself approached with surprising interest. "You're doing good, kid," the veteran trainer said, "but don't get cocky. He's taking your measure now. Next round, he'll have you figured out." Marcus nodded, too winded to speak. Across the ring, Ali was engaged in animated conversation with Bundini, occasionally glancing in Marcus's direction. The great champion appeared irritated, perhaps even concerned. 3 years away from boxing had eroded some of his timing, some of his endurance, and now an unknown journeyman was exposing those vulnerabilities. Round 3 began with Ali abandoning his showmanship entirely. Gone were the taunts and the theatrical movements. In their place was the focused clinical boxer who had dismantled Sonny Liston and Floyd Patterson. He jabbed with purpose, each punch designed to set up the next. Marcus found himself retreating, struggling to decode the patterns of an offensive now executed with cold precision. A straight right penetrated his guard, snapping his head back. Another followed, then a hook that buckled his knees. Marcus instinctively clinched, buying precious seconds to clear his head. "Thought you had something, didn't you?" Ali whispered during the embrace. "Takes more than 2 good rounds to beat the greatest." When the referee separated them, Marcus changed tactics. Instead of trying to match Ali's speed, he focused on timing, looking for the fractional openings in the champion's still imperfect rhythm. Midway through the round, he found one, slipping a jab and delivering a counter right hand that landed squarely on Ali's temple. Ali stumbled backward, his legs momentarily unsteady. The gym erupted in shocked exclamations. Angelo Dundee leaned forward, his knuckles white against the ring apron. Bundini Brown shouted urgent encouragement. Marcus pressed his advantage, cutting off the ring, landing another solid combination that forced Ali to hold. For a brief, surreal moment, Marcus Wilkins, unknown journeyman with 14 losses to his name, had the great Muhammad Ali in trouble. As the third round neared its conclusion, the energy in the gym had transformed. The spectators, initially there to witness a routine training session, now watched with genuine suspense. The sparring match had transcended its intended purpose. It had become real. In Ali's corner, Angelo Dundee's face was grim as he whispered intense instructions. Across the ring, Marcus sat alone, understanding that he had crossed an invisible line. He had come to Louisville hoping for opportunity. He now realized he might have found something else entirely. The bell for round 4 rang with the finality of an execution order. Marcus rose from his corner, legs heavy with fatigue, but mind sharp with possibility. Across the ring, Muhammad Ali's expression had transformed. Gone was any trace of the charismatic showman. In his place stood a calculating predator whose legacy was suddenly at stake. The air in the gym crackled with tension. The other fighters pressed closer to the ring, their workouts forgotten. Drew Collins caught Marcus's eye and gave a subtle headshake, a warning perhaps, or a farewell. Ali didn't bounce now. He stalked forward with deliberate steps, his guard high and tight. Marcus met him in the center of the ring, understanding that this final round would define whatever future awaited him in boxing. He had rocked Muhammad Ali, an achievement few could claim, but the unspoken question hanging in the air was whether he would pay for that transgression. The first minute passed in a tactical exchange, both men probing for openings with stiff jabs and feints. Ali's breathing had stabilized, his movements more economical than flashy. Marcus landed a solid body shot that drew a grunt from the champion, but the follow-up hook missed by inches as Ali swayed backward with characteristic elegance. "Got to be faster than that," Ali murmured, the familiar trash talk returning but without its usual playfulness. Marcus pressed forward, cutting off the ring, forcing Ali toward the ropes. He launched a combination, jab, cross, hook, that partially connected, enough to make Ali retreat another step. The spectators murmured. Angelo Dundee's expression darkened. Then it happened. As Marcus advanced again, Ali suddenly planted his feet and countered with a straight right hand that seemed to materialize from nowhere. The punch landed flush on Marcus's jaw with a force that sent shockwaves through his body. His legs betrayed him, buckling as the gym ceiling spun above. Only the ropes kept him from hitting the canvas. Ali pounced with the killer instinct that had made him champion, throwing combinations with renewed speed and power. Left hook, right cross, left uppercut, each finding its target as Marcus covered up desperately. Through his gloves, he could see Ali's eyes, cold and focused, the look of a man eliminating a threat. Drew Collins shouted from ringside, "Move, Marcus! Tie him up!" Somehow Marcus managed to clinch, his arms wrapping around Ali to stop the onslaught. His head throbbed, his vision blurred at the edges. "That's what happens when you wake the giant," Ali whispered, his breath hot against Marcus's ear. When the referee separated them, Marcus summoned his remaining strength and launched a desperate counterattack. His right hand, thrown with everything he had left, slipped through Ali's guard and connected squarely on the champion's chin. Ali's head snapped back, his eyes momentarily glazing. The gym fell silent. For one eternal second, Muhammad Ali, the greatest, the Louisville Lip, the man who shook up the world, wobbled on unsteady legs. His knees dipped slightly, his gloves lowered just enough to reveal the disorientation in his eyes. Marcus, running on instinct, stepped forward to throw the finishing blow. Before he could launch it, the bell rang, signaling the end of the round. Angelo Dundee was already climbing through the ropes, positioning himself protectively in front of his fighter. Bundini Brown followed, his usual exuberance replaced by concern. The other trainers and fighters surged forward, creating a barrier between Marcus and the still unsteady Ali. Marcus stood alone in the neutral corner, his chest heaving, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had done what many considered impossible. He had hurt Muhammad Ali, had him seconds away from a knockdown. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. As the crowd around Ali gradually dispersed, the champion's faculties returned. He shook his head clear, waved off the concerned ministrations of his team, and straightened to his full height. His eyes locked on Marcus across the ring. For a moment, something like genuine anger flashed across his face. Then, with characteristic unpredictability, Ali's expression softened into a smile. He approached Marcus, gloves raised in the traditional post-fight gesture of respect. Marcus hesitantly tapped his gloves against the champion's. "Not bad for a no-name," Ali said, loud enough for others to hear. You got potential. Might make something of yourself one day. The words seemed generous, even gracious, but Marcus detected something beneath them. A public narrative being established that would minimize what had just occurred. Already, the moment was being reframed, not as a rusty Ali nearly being knocked out, but as a magnanimous champion encouraging a promising talent. As they exited the ring, Marcus became aware of the changed atmosphere. The fighters and trainers who had ignored him earlier now watched with a mixture of newfound respect and wariness. Angelo Dundee engaged in intense conversation with Ali, occasionally glancing in Marcus's direction. Bundini Brown paced nervously, his usual stream of colourful encouragement replaced by worried muttering. In the locker room, Drew Collins appeared beside Marcus as he unwrapped his hands. "You've got a problem, man," Drew said, his voice low. Nobody was supposed to actually hurt him. This was about getting him ready for Frazier, not embarrassing him in front of his people. Marcus looked up, the reality of his situation finally penetrating the fog of adrenaline. "I was just fighting. Isn't that what I was brought here to do?" Drew shook his head. "There's fighting, and then there's what you just did." Ali's got powerful friends, and a lot riding on his comeback. People have invested millions in him beating Frazier. You just showed everyone he might not be ready. As Marcus showered and changed, the implications of Drew's warning settled over him like a shadow. He had come to Louisville seeking opportunity. Instead, he might have made himself a liability to people who didn't tolerate liabilities. When he emerged from the locker room, Angelo Dundee was waiting, his compact frame leaning against the wall, arms crossed over his chest. "We need to talk about what happens next," Dundee said, his voice betraying nothing of his thoughts. "The champ wants you to stay on as a sparring partner, says you've got something he needs to work against." Marcus felt a conflicting surge of pride and apprehension. "I'd be honored," he replied carefully. Dundee's eyes narrowed slightly. "Just remember what you're here for. This is about getting him ready for Frazier. Nothing else. We understand each other." Marcus nodded, the unspoken threat hanging in the air between them. "Good," Dundee said. "Be back tomorrow at 6. And Wilkins. What happened in that ring today stays in this gym. Far as the world's concerned, Ali's looking better than ever." As Dundee walked away, Marcus stood alone in the dimly lit corridor, understanding that his life had changed irrevocably. He had touched greatness, had even threatened to topple it. Now he would learn whether that moment of glory was worth whatever price awaited him. The telephone booth outside his motel room offered little protection from the biting Kentucky wind. Marcus huddled inside, pressing the receiver tight against his ear to hear his wife's voice through the static. "I'm staying on as a regular sparring partner," he told Dolores, unable to keep the excitement from his voice despite his unease. $300 a week, plus room and board." "That's wonderful, Marcus," she replied, genuine joy in her tone. "Wait till I tell Mikey his daddy's working with Muhammad Ali." Marcus hesitated, the warning from Drew Collins echoing in his mind. "Listen, when you talk to people about this, just keep it simple, okay? I'm helping Ali train, that's all. Is something wrong?" Dolores asked, too perceptive to miss the tension in his voice. "No, nothing's wrong. Just boxing politics. You know how it is." After saying goodbye, Marcus returned to his sparse motel room, sinking onto the edge of the bed. The events of the day played on repeat in his mind. The sensation of his glove connecting with Ali's chin, the momentary wobble in the great champion's legs, the sudden shift in how everyone in the gym regarded him afterward. He had achieved something remarkable and dangerous in equal measure. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the gym before dawn. The building was quiet, only a single light burning in what he assumed was Dundee's office. He changed quickly, warming up in the empty training area, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Gradually, others began to arrive, trainers first, then fighters for their morning road work. Drew Collins nodded a greeting, his expression guarded. "Thought you might not show," Drew said, wrapping his hands methodically. "Why wouldn't I?" Drew shrugged. "Figured maybe you'd wise up, head back to Philly." Before Marcus could respond, the gym doors swung open and Muhammad Ali entered, surrounded by his entourage. The champion moved with his characteristic swagger, holding court as he crossed to the dressing room. He passed within feet of Marcus without acknowledgement. Angelo Dundee approached, clipboard in hand. "Change of plans, Wilkins. No sparring for you today. Just work the heavy bag, maybe some mitt drills later if I have time." Marcus frowned. "But yesterday you said plans change," Dundee interrupted. "That's boxing." For 3 days, the pattern continued. Marcus showed up, trained alone or with peripheral members of Ali's team, and watched as other sparring partners worked with the champion. Ali himself maintained a careful distance, treating Marcus with a studied indifference that seemed deliberate rather than coincidental. On the 4th day, as Marcus pounded the heavy bag in frustrated isolation, a heavy-set man in an expensive suit approached. He wasn't part of Ali's regular entourage, but the deference shown to him by others in the gym indicated his importance. "Marcus Wilkins?" the man asked, his Chicago accent thick. Marcus stopped his workout, breathing heavily. "That's me." The man extended a manicured hand. "Frank Moretti. I handle certain business interests for Mr. Ali's promotional team." Marcus shook the offered hand, immediately wary. "What can I do for you, Mr. Moretti?" Moretti smiled, revealing a gold tooth. "Walk with me." They moved to a quiet corner of the gym, away from curious ears. "I'll be direct, Mr. Wilkins. You've created a situation that needs managing. That little display the other day, not helpful to our objectives." Marcus tensed. "I was brought here to spar. That's what I did." You were brought here to make the champ look good, to help him prepare," Moretti corrected, "not to try making a name for yourself at his expense. I didn't." "Here's what's going to happen," Moretti continued, as if Marcus hadn't spoken. "You're getting $5,000. He produced an envelope from his jacket. "This buys your silence and your absence. You'll leave Louisville today. If anyone asks, you'll say the champ looked fantastic, better than ever. You never hurt him, never came close, just an honor to share the ring with the greatest." Marcus stared at the envelope. $5,000, more than he'd earn in a year of small-time fights. Enough to pay off their debts, maybe put a down payment on a small house. "And if I want to stay?" he asked. Moretti's smile disappeared. "That wouldn't be advisable. There are many ways a boxing career can end, Mr. Wilkins. Not all of them involve retirement." The threat hung in the air between them, unambiguous in its implication. "I have a contract with Dundee," Marcus said, his voice betraying his uncertainty. $300 a week." Moretti laughed. A short, humorless sound. "No, you don't. Nothing was signed. But if you prefer, we can tear up this envelope and see how many fights you get booked for after leaving here. You think promoters will touch you after we put the word out? Think again." Marcus took the envelope, the weight of it somehow both liberating and condemning. "Smart decision," Moretti said, his smile returning. "Bus leaves for Philly at 3. I'd suggest you be on it." As Moretti walked away, Drew Collins appeared at Marcus's side. "Told you," Drew said quietly. "Too many powerful people invested in Ali's comeback. Can't have some unknown messing with the narrative." Marcus nodded, the truth of his situation settling over him like a shroud. "What would you do?" Drew sighed. Take the money. Go home to your family. Some mountains aren't meant to be climbed, man. That afternoon, as Marcus packed his few belongings in the motel room, a knock came at the door. He opened it to find Muhammad Ali himself standing there, without his usual entourage. The champion filled the doorframe, his presence somehow larger in the confined space. "Heard you're leaving," Ali said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Marcus nodded, unsure what to say. Ali surveyed the small room, his gaze eventually settling on Marcus. "You got a gift. You know that. That right hand. Timing. Not many men ever caught me like that." The acknowledgement, delivered without witnesses, seemed to cost Ali something in pride. "Thank you," Marcus replied, genuinely moved by the champion's candor. Ali moved to the window, looking out at the parking lot as if checking they were truly alone. "They're right to send you away," he said finally. "I can't have stories getting out. Not now. Fraser's waiting, then Foreman after that. I need the world believing I'm invincible." "I understand," Marcus said. Ali turned, his expression suddenly fierce. "But don't let them end you. You're too good for that. Take their money, but don't let them take your fighting." Marcus felt a surge of emotion at the unexpected support. "What should I do?" "Change your name. Move to another city. Start fresh where they don't know you. Vegas, maybe. Or California. Talent like yours, someone will give you a shot if they don't know you're on Angelo's blacklist." The advice, practical and surprisingly thoughtful, revealed another side to the champion, a strategic mind that understood the boxing business as thoroughly as the sport itself. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus asked. Ali smiled, the familiar charisma returning to his features. "Because someday, when I'm done with Fraser and Foreman and all the rest, I want a real fight with you. On the record. No secrets, no politics, just boxing." The offer hung in the air, an impossible dream that both men knew would never materialize. "I'd like that," Marcus said simply. Ali nodded, extending his hand. They shook, a moment of genuine respect between two fighters whose paths had crossed at the wrong time, under the wrong circumstances. "Be seeing you," Ali said, turning to leave. "Champ," Marcus called after him, "for what it's worth, I think you'll beat Fraser." Ali paused in the doorway, his smile turning enigmatic. "Course I will. I'm the greatest. Don't you forget it." With that, he was gone, leaving Marcus alone with $5,000 and a future both wealthier and poorer than the one he'd imagined when stepping off the bus in Louisville. 3 hours later, Marcus boarded the Greyhound, bound for Philadelphia. As the bus pulled away from the station, he caught a glimpse of a black Cadillac idling across the street, Frank Moretti visible behind the wheel. The message was clear. He was being watched, his departure confirmed. Marcus settled into his seat, the envelope secure in his jacket pocket. In it was enough money to change his family's immediate circumstances, but not their ultimate trajectory. The price of his silence bought comfort, not transformation. He thought about Ali's advice: change your name, move west, start fresh. Perhaps there was wisdom there, a path to salvaging something from this abrupt conclusion. Or perhaps this was boxing's way of telling him what he'd always suspected, that he didn't belong among its elite, that his moment of greatness was just that, a moment, not a destiny. As the Louisville skyline receded in the distance, Marcus Wilkins closed his eyes, the familiar vibration of the bus beneath him a reminder of all the roads traveled and all the roads yet ahead. He had nearly knocked out Muhammad Ali, had touched immortality for the briefest of instances. They could buy his silence, even direct his future, but they couldn't take that moment from him. In the secret history of boxing, in the stories that never made the newspapers or the record books, he would always be the unknown fighter who had the greatest on the ropes, and the man who paid the price for that fleeting glory.